still goodbye.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the December 18th regular meeting of Council. The City of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. For the consent agenda, the minutes of the council meeting held December 4th, 2023, and approval of the council meeting agenda. Do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Martin. Any errors, omissions, or discussion? All those in favor? It carries unanimous. Thank you. Moving right along, we have delegations. We have 3 delegations today. Starting off our list today is Mr. Kurt regarding a request for sidewalk on the west side of Lombardy Street. Mr. Kurt, you have 10 minutes for the presentation. Welcome to the microphone up here. There's a button, just second one from the right, that will turn on red. Welcome, sir.
Is that better? I would like to take a minute to thank the mayor and the council members present today for allowing me to address our concerns directly to you. My name is Peter Kurt. I'm 82 years of age, and I'm one of 27 condo owners at Azalea Terrace, located at 309 Morrison Avenue. Our building is located on the south side of McDonald's restaurants between Island Highway West and Morrison Avenue. Approximately 2 years ago, another 29-unit condo building was completed, which included 6 commercial sites on the ground floor of the building. The completion of this project included a fully finished sidewalk spanning the full width of 100 Lombardy Street, from Island Highway West to Morrison Avenue. Lombardy Street is a short block accommodating all 3 buildings, with the east side of Lombardy Street, or while the east side of Lombardy Street is completed, the west side of Lombardy Street is not, as it has an incomplete sidewalk, with the finished portion of the sidewalk covering only the area from Island Highway West to the entrance to the McDonald's parking lot. The balance of the block, measuring approximately 100 feet, has no sidewalk, only a soft roller which has signage as a no stopping zone. This omission creates a serious safety issue for the owners of Azalea Terrace as they exit from the underground garage onto Lombardy Street. Unfortunately, the no stopping sign has little to no impact on motorists who illegally park on the street at will. Because there is no sidewalk, cars can pull over, covering the area where there would normally be a sidewalk. If there was a sidewalk, there would be not enough room to park there, as the truck or car would block 1 lane of the street. The problem is that whenever someone exits our garage, illegally parked cars or trucks on both sides of the garage exit impede the view up and down Lombardy Street to spot oncoming traffic. There have been numerous occasions where a car leaving our garage could have easily been hit because of parked cars blocking the view. It is a great concern of all the owners in our building and that we share in dread. The main reason for our request, and I'm speaking for all our condo owners, is the great concern for the lack of safety and security. The completion of the sidewalk would also benefit the many pedestrians from around the area. Then there would be no need to dodge cars or trucks, especially in the wintertime. This request comes at the urging of all owners in our building. We would appreciate swift action to our concerns. The building is a 55+ building with an aged population ranging from 55 years to the high 80s. Acknowledging that the future transportation master plan for Parksville will probably address our concerns sometime in the future, It is important to realize that our situation is rather unique in that it presents a security and safety issue, calling for special consideration and swift action as the situation will not correct itself. We would welcome a visit from one or more council members to view our street personally in order to fully understand the scope and urgency of our request. All owners of Azalea Terrace would breathe a sigh of relief upon reconstruction or about the completion of the construction of our sidewalk and would forever be grateful and appreciate the city of Parksville. That is really all the presentation I want to make today. I would like again to thank the mayor and all council members for the opportunity to share this problem, listening to our presentation. Hopefully our request will not fall on deaf ears and receive the attention it deserves. If there are no questions, I vacate this chair, make room for someone else. But again, thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Kurt. If you can hang out, I've got a question or two, and I'll if you could just stay there. Yes,
Okay.
yeah, you're okay. I'll ask council if they have any questions. I have one or two that I'd just like to address now that you hear.
Yeah.
Just a question regarding your parking garage. Is the exit onto Lombardy, is there any other, the one that you're speaking of, is there any other entrance or exit to your parking garage on Morrison or Lombardy?
Yes, there is an entrance from the Island Highway West at the other end of the parking lot, kind of. So everybody that comes from Qualicum Beach or so from that area can pull in to the McDonald's parking lot. But quite frankly, 90% of the traffic seems to come the other way. They come up from downtown, make a left turn on Lombardy, and then a right turn into the parking lot. They do their purchases there, buy their food, whatever, excuse me. And when they pull out of the parking lot, quite regularly, they make a right turn. And since there is no sidewalk, they use that as a parking area to eat their lunch. Even though there's a lot of parking spaces free, I never understand why they do this, but they go in that direction back into town or where they came from, and that's the direction they take. So this morning, when I pulled out of the garage, there was a huge truck parked to the left side there's a small hill to climb up to Lombardy Street. And there was this huge truck there, and I had no way of knowing what was coming from Island Highway, what traffic. So you have to inch out and kind of slowly go around. And elderly people tend to hesitate a little more than the young guys that are full of spit and vinegar.
Yes, the McDonald's drive-through is one of the unintended consequences of the drive-through. The people coming and going constantly and never actually exiting their car, but just picking up their food and then exiting again and going down.
That's right. Yeah. What we did one time, we did it twice actually. Take a traffic count on the street, and it's between 800 and 1,200 cars coming and going on that short block. It's a very 200-foot long block. Right. And that is quite a bit of traffic. It doesn't bother us how much traffic there is as long as they don't park on the way out or sometimes on the way in, We have some trucks that pull up, run in to get their coffee and come back out and away they go, But right. It is a real problem. I talked to every one of our owners in our building. We tried this about 2.5, 3 years ago, and this approach with the city, and it's gotten worse actually since then. There's been a lot of complaints. I was on council at that time, the last time I did this, and I was asked again to maybe pursue it one more time with the new council.
It is indeed a very busy McDonald's. Yeah, I recognize that very much so. Councilor Martin, questions for the delegation? if you could do your microphone, Councilor Martin? No, not yet.
On two.
There.
There's the other one. Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
if you could
Yeah.
repeat your question, please.
Yeah, sure. How would we get something like this done? Like, do we have to wait for our transportation report, or is it something that we put in line if we wanted to do this? Would it take quite a while, or how does that work?
I'll address that after all the questions are
Okay.
done. I'll address it to the delegation after you've asked all your questions regarding the situation.
I don't think our delegation
Yeah.
will know. I think it's more a city. I'm talking about what goes on
Yes,
and how it
yeah.
works.
But,
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank-
Councilor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to our delegation. First of all, I want to thank you very, very much for coming forward and for bringing your concern forward. I have deep appreciation for volunteers, because I understand that when you're speaking on behalf of your condo owners and you are talking with them, that it takes time, it takes effort, it takes a lot of thought. And putting something together like this, shows a real commitment to your neighborhood and to your neighbors. And I want to thank you for that. I really do.
Very nice.
I'm relatively familiar, I will say, with the street. I have been a customer of McDonald's on occasion, but I also go up and down all kinds of streets, either on foot or in my vehicle. And interestingly enough, I have actually come by and not seen anybody parked there. And I noticed that in your submission, the photos that you sent, there were no vehicles parked there. So, but I don't doubt that it does happen sometime.
Yeah.
I also did notice the no stopping sign. So clearly people who are parking there are doing so illegally, as you have mentioned. So I appreciate that here you're actually asking for a sidewalk. I am also just wondering and thinking that there may be other solutions as well. I think that
Yeah.
I just wonder if, that this may be something that between our engineering department and our bylaw department, that there may be, whether it be a short-term or a permanent fix to this, that I'm really hopeful that we can make some improvement here. I also wonder, like, would you feel that if your neighbors did not encounter ever any illegally parked cars, I got the impression that that shoulder is actually paved and would actually make a fairly smooth traveling surface for people if they wanted to walk or roll over to the McDonald's. And I mentioned that because I know people personally who use mobility devices who do not find sidewalks very comfortable, because you get the breaks in the concrete, you get the up and down with the cutouts, and they actually prefer just an asphalt surface. So I'm just wondering, have you thought about, would it improve things, I suppose, in your opinion, if in fact it could be safer that no cars could park there and you would have that paved shoulder?
Well, I feel that the curb, which is higher than the street, comes up with 7 inches or whatever, is a deterrent for people to, nobody parks on a sidewalk, even for a minute, to get there. And once the sidewalk takes up whatever amount of footage it is width-wise, that a car parked next to that on the street is actually blocking that lane of the street. And that's why in front of McDonald's, where there is a walkway, where there is a sidewalk, you very seldom, if ever, do you see a car stop there or park there. So I think the sidewalk itself, just continuation of what is already there, would be, in my opinion, the best solution. And we have, as a group, looked at it, the owners of our building, and they felt too that it is a separation from the street, the sidewalk. And that's why they thought that the sidewalk itself might be the best solution.
Follow-up, Councilor Bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed that, for instance, and I'm not going to suggest a specific fix for this, but I do
Mhm.
think that we need to keep an open mind and seriously address the concerns that you brought forward. I do notice that there are large concrete, those
Yes.
blocks are there,
Mhm.
I can't help but wonder if some of those were moved over along the edge of the shoulder line.
Mhm.
Some places, not necessarily here in town, have bollards, even the plastic sorts, to again, as an indication to drivers, oh, you can't go over there. So I'm just suggesting that maybe there is a solution here that may or may not include an actual sidewalk, but ensure the safety and comfort of your neighbors. So
Mhm.
I also, picking up on what Councillor Martin was saying, we do have the master transportation plan coming out, but I can appreciate that that might take longer.
Mhm.
Final question from me. Have your neighbors, have people called by law about this, about the illegally parked cars?
Many times. But in almost all cases, by the time they got there, they're not there in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It's sometimes 6 and 10, 15 minutes to get there. Usually the problem solves itself temporarily. The car that we complained about, I've kicked away from there 2 or 3 cars a week that I say, look, see that sign up there? That's a no stopping zone where you're parked, and would you please leave? Say, yeah, I'm leaving in a few minutes. No, I want you to leave right now. And it's been a little bit of, I'm outspoken enough to go and speak to them, but it is an ongoing issue. Like there isn't a day where there aren't cars parked there. I guess we waited till the street was nice and clear, so we saw the lack of the sidewalk rather than having cars parked there. But it's almost every time you come out of the garage, there's a car or two parked up there. And people don't know, they don't see the sign that well. Yesterday, we pulled out when I came up here, on last week sometime, I guess. I pulled out and a lady was, that was yesterday morning, a lady was in the corner blocking my view from, as I got to top of the garage exit, blocking my view towards Morrison. I couldn't see anything, and I went around and I went like this when I went by a car, and she immediately apologized. She didn't know that she maybe shouldn't park there.
Right. I think, and I too applaud Councillor Bales searching for alternate ways of making this safer. And
Mhm.
I think we have to definitely look at that. And I understand what I would guess the people driving through McDonald's are picking up their pickup order,
Mhm.
and then they're coming out of the parking lot
Mhm.
and then parking illegally on
Yeah,
that
it-
spot.
it-
They're rearranging their food
Yeah.
so that they can drive down the highway and
Yeah.
eat their lunch on the run, which, what a lot of contractors have to do, of course, right?
Mhm.
They're going to the next site.
Yeah.
And so I get that, but unfortunately they're stopping that area. So if there's some means for, we're looking this as a safety issue for your people egress
For
from
our
your parking
buildings
garage.
especially.
Sidewalk may be one possible solution, but another solution could be either bollards or like a bike lane or something like that, like clearly identifying that there's no stopping here, no
Mhm.
matter how short a period of time. It's not a loading zone. There's no
Mhm.
stopping period.
Mhm.
So what I would suggest is that we would put that to our staff to come up with a possible recommendation as
Okay.
to somehow, let's take care of the safety issue. A sidewalk is one thing possible, but let's take care of the safety issue. Is there something else we could do that would be more immediate, that wouldn't require a
Mhm.
whole bunch of budget amendments and so forth, that we could look at it? But I would like to put that over to our engineering department. I too agree that the master transportation plan is coming up, but I don't think it's actually looking in detail to the side streets like that. I may be pleasantly surprised.
Mhm.
But anyways, I would, and that's going to be a while out. So if we could maybe,
Mhm.
to answer Councillor Martin's question anyways, I think that would be the process we'd use now, Mr. Kurt.
Yeah.
Anyways, to put this to our engineering department to look at it as to possible ways of discouraging any parking of any duration on that area,
would
whether it's a
be-
combination of bylaw compliance or bollards perhaps, or maybe more road marking, making like it's a bicycle lane, like there's a bicycle lane, like up in Temple, you don't park in that bicycle lane.
No.
And
know.
they don't, and people don't park there. So is that a quick solution? I don't know. But the people that are way smarter than myself, can make those conclusions better than I. So is there any further questions for Mr. Kurt from council? Go ahead, Councillor Wood.
I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Kurt, for bringing things forward to council. I know that it does take a lot of organizing and you chatting with your residents and make an appointment with council to bring your concerns forward. It sounds like it's a lot of a safety issue, and I look forward to hearing kind of the history of why there's not a sidewalk there and also staff's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kurt, for your presentation, and that's the venue or the route we will be taking. Anyways, we hear you, and
Well-
we'll see what we can do to hopefully
You've made
mitigate
great
your situation.
progress.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next delegation council is from the Nanaimo and Area Land Trust, NALT, for an overview of programs and services by Mr. P. Chapman of the Nanaimo and Area Land Trust to provide a general report on NALT and its work in and around Parksville. Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you for holding these meetings at a reasonable time of day and demonstrating frugality by keeping the temperature down. I appreciate all these things.
That is not intentional.
I know. I should have worn my a warm hat.
Yeah, you're right.
So hello, my name is Paul Chapman. I'm the Executive Director of the Nanaimo and Area Land Trust, also known as NALT. NALT has been around since 1995, and we work in the territories of the Snuneymuxw, Tsuut'ina, Danaus, Tla'amin, Coetbh, and Sechelt nations. NALT's mission is to support, promote, and protect the natural values of land and water in our area. And we do this by working collaboratively with local government staff, community organizations, and neighborhoods to address their conservation needs. Although many of our activities are carried out in the city of Nanaimo, we operate throughout the regional district of Nanaimo and beyond. We are a registered society and charity. Currently, we have 1 full-time and 2 part-time staff, and 3 program-related and 1 administrative contract staff. We have approximately 330 members, and those are individual, family, and business members. And thus far in 2023, we have had 130 volunteers donate more than 3,373 hours in support of our activities. I'd like to speak about some of our activities that occur in or near Parksville, and I'm going to be generous when I say near Parksville, and about some that would benefit from more engagement with the community. So we have a school water stewards program that provides place-based, curriculum-connected experiential learning opportunities for elementary school children in school districts 68 and 69. And what that means is we take kids out of their classrooms into their watersheds, where they learn about water quality, quantity, and habitat, and participate in stewardship activities. There's no cost for students or schools to participate in the program. And so in and around Parksville, we are at Oceanside, Arrington, Arrowsmith, Nanoose, and the Collaborative Education Alternative Program, KEEP. So that's one thing we do with schools, and we hope to expand in elementary schools in the area. Bat surveys. As part of the BC Bat Community Bat Program, our stewardship manager responds to bat observations and reports, queries from publics about bats and human structures, and carries out public education and awareness building about bat conservation, and assists in collection of visual and auditory bat survey data. We have a pollinator paradise project to promote pollinator-friendly gardening and landscape choices. And it involves presentations, workshops, restoration and enhancement, and mapping pollinator habitat in our neighborhoods. In this area, we have a conservation covenant, which is a legal tool that's registered on title to protect the natural values of a property. It travels with title and is legally binding, and is, the language around it is in perpetuity. We have one on a Little Mountain property. In terms of acquisition, I think you can look to Moorcroft as a collaboration success story. The previous NALT executive director, Gail Adrian, worked with the Presbytery to help the provincial council recognize that there was a better use for Moorcroft as park rather than development property. And, you know, it was a years-long process to get to that. And I think there's opportunities in and around Parksville, and you know, we carry on these sorts of conversations with RDN staff, and would be love to have the opportunity to have those same discussions with Parksville staff, park staff as well. Information, notably, we worked with the Partnership for Water Sustainability in BC and the Mid-Vancouver Island Habitat Enhancement Society to bring a water stewardship in a changing climate conference, 2-day conference in 2019 to Parksville. That's gone online since, but we still have those presentations, and we hope to bring it back to probably a mix between in-person and online, as with everything in our new exciting new world. And then in terms of collaboration, we've worked with the Save Estuary Land Society, the Friends of French Creek, the Aerosmith Naturalists, MIBIs, as I mentioned before, Broom Busters, and Mabry, and others through the Mid-Island Stewardship Caucus. And we also respond to appeals of support from concerned citizens as we are made aware of their concerns. NALT would like to improve our connection with Parksville and with the Parksville community. So when you look at the BAT survey, you know, we have a lot of data around Nanaimo and a little bit of data north of Parksville, but we have a data gap in Parksville. And it's similar for our pollinator mapping when we look at pollinator habitat. And, you know, we know that that's about our engagement, and we need to improve our engagement here. And you know, this is one way of doing that. And we hope to work with city staff and with those community groups to increase our information about that. And, you know, to borrow a phrase from VIU and others, you know, we all live, work, and play in the most imperiled biogeoclimatic zone in BC, the coastal Douglas fir forest, with the most habitat and species at risk. And knowing that comes with a set of responsibilities that we all share collectively. And stewardship collaboration shows us that what we can achieve when we work together. And the challenges of the present and future require us to work together, and we are better when we work together. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or listen to any suggestions you may have. Thank you. Haisapka.
Thanks for your presentation, Paul. I really appreciate it. And we have a lot in common already, because many of those groups that you mentioned, in between Mabry and Ibis and all this, we already collaborate with all of them on a big way. We certainly appreciate the value of themselves and your organization as well. So thank you for what you do. So is there questions from council? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to everybody, including our presenter here. Thank you, sir. Could you tell us a little bit more about your partnership with Mabry and watershed protection? Are you folks kind of working towards conservation in the watershed area in the Mabry region? I know this has been identified, and even the RDN, one of the strategic priorities is to have more conservation lands. And you must have heard of the 30 by 30. Everybody wants to talk about the preservation of 30% of the land and water. So just wondering if there is anything in the works. I understand some legalities you can't talk about, but in general, is this within your vision of acquiring some of the conservation lands in the Aerosmith Biosphere region?
Yeah, I'd say there's some challenges, right? With 30 by 30, realizing that on the east coast of Vancouver Island, as compared to most of the rest of Canada, is that we exist in a place where more than 90% of the land base is privately held, whereas in the rest of Canada, that 90% would be Crown land. So we have particular challenges around securing that 30 by 30. And some of that is about cost, some of that is about parcel size, but it's, you know, that's no reason not to try to work towards achieving that, because this is, you know, an area where we have the most species at risk. in, the biogeomagnetic zone in BC. The most species at risk happen in the CDF, and the CDF exists, from the shoreline to, say, 200 meters elevation, the east coast of Vancouver Island, the islands in the strait, and a couple spots on the mainland. So, this is an area of high importance, but it has a lot of difficulties around how we're going to get to a 30 by 30. In terms of watershed protection, I think we've grown with the drinking water and watershed protection with the RDN. We've sort of been on that journey together and learning as we've done that with them, and it's become a prominent piece of what we do. And one of those ways that we do that is through that school water stewards. And it's really about and we receive support from the drinking water watershed protection and delivering some of the curriculum content that they've developed. And it's really that message around the nexus between the service delivery of an eco asset like a watershed and the conservation and stewardship of those things and how they support each other. And we're doing that, like I say, with the schools that I listed. What we do to save money is we do it within walkable distance of schools if possible, so that they connect to their watersheds. So those schools are connected to watersheds in the region. And with Mabry, a lot of what we do is through the Mid-Island Stewardship Caucus, and also looking at their, when they talk about 30 by 30, they look at OECM's other effective conservation management of land. And we're involved with that with some of our covenants as well.
Thank you. Other questions for the delegation today? Councillor Beale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to our delegation. Thank you very much for coming today to speak to us. I have a couple of questions. One is, could you tell us a little bit about how you're funded to provide these many services and work with the different groups that you do? So I'll just leave that at one question right now.
Yeah, we receive some core funding from the RDN and from the city of Nanaimo. And so that's like 2/3 of our core funding. And then we receive, 1/3 again from our membership. And then we seek out program specific or project specific funding. And that can be from gaming or the Pacific Salmon Foundation or the Friends of the Environment Foundation. So those project and program specific funding, come from other sources, wherever we can find them, whoever will answer the phone or their email, essentially. But that core funding is RDN, city, and our membership.
Follow up, Councillor Beale.
And who knows, perhaps if there was a greater presence over time of NALT in this area and people saw, direct results and connections, perhaps that membership could grow up in this larger area as well. I understand that you are a nonprofit organization, therefore people would be receiving tax receipts and all that. But I was also curious a bit more about the bat survey. I'm quite interested in bats, actually. And has there been any outreach to connect with any of our staff who might be involved with parks or, for instance, our wetlands? I don't know if there are identified areas within Parksville that might be good locations. Good location. That might be good locations for conducting further bat survey or installing bat houses. I wonder if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I've had a brief opportunity to speak with Graham Giddon about bats and in particular around the wetlands park. But the person who handles the bats and knows about the bats she's working at work right now. So she'd be able to answer your questions in much more detail than I will be. But there are two places we look for bats, and one, it tends to be older forests where they have, there's trees of significant age that they have the opportunity to stay within the bark of a fir tree to roost, or in buildings. And they tend to be older buildings and occupied or unoccupied. And so, the unoccupied are tricky because people don't like to leave, derelict buildings around, and occupied are tricky because people want to use those buildings. But we've managed in the Cowichan Valley Regional District to help a community hall sort of cordon off an area of their attic that is used by bats in such a way, that separates the air safely from the use. And they've come to celebrate bats in their attic versus trying to figure out how to get them out of there. So those are the sorts of conversations we have, is looking at what sorts of natural and built habitat there is. And then we can conduct visual surveys where we have bat counts, and auditory where we can put up listening devices that will recognize the calls that they hear. They're both very effective ways to find out which bats are where.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor, through yourself. Mr. Chapman, thank you very much for your presentation. Here at the city, we have to juggle a bunch of different things at a time, including building housing density, and sometimes Douglas fir have to come down. Councillor Gore has been amazing at fighting every second of the way and trying to cut down as little trees as possible, which we would all like to do, but we have to kind of juggle housing prices as well. I know you didn't come, I don't think you came with any asks for the city of Parksville today, but if you did have an ask or two of the city in a perfect world, do you have anything that you might like to add? Thank you.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, it would just be, it's really about opening the doors between NALT and city staff to have those conversations. And, I think that when we have those when we build those relationships, we have opportunities to identify, where we can do things in a planned way rather than a reactive way, and rather than having to say, this development doesn't work because of these qualities, or you're going to lose this if you do that. We'd have opportunities to say, hey, why don't we get out ahead of this and protect that thing and protect those functions and that habitat, that is part of us supporting a growing city as well. And as we densify and build up, we also need to protect those shared common outdoor spaces, and they're natural. And you guys have to consider playgrounds and ball fields as well. I've got the luxury of just being concerned about the environment. So
Thank you. Councillor Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And follow up to Councillor Wood's question. Our city, I do think that we really value, going back to what the mayor said, we really value our relationships with MIVI and with the Aerosmith Naturalists and other such groups. And I know that when it comes to working in certain areas, the staff does seek input from these groups. I'm just wondering if, in the interest of efficiency, because if you've got connections with these other groups, and certainly we do with Mabry as well. So we've got 3 groups there who do interact with city staff. Are you connected well enough with them that they would know that, hey, there's something coming up, we're meeting with the city, could we invite someone from NALT to attend at the same time, rather than city staff having to seek out, or you seek out and have separate meetings when in fact things could be more efficient? So if you've already got to wrap it up, if you've already got those connections, is it possible for you to work on ensuring that you're not forgotten at the table through those avenues? And then we don't have to, we wouldn't want to miss you if you could be there.
yeah, as much as I like meetings, I try not to make them happen just because. So we do, like, for instance, the Aerosmith Naturalists have quite a lot of information around pollinator habitat in the area. So we are working with them to see how we can include that into our mapping instead of recreating it, instead of having another meeting with staff to recreate that effort. And we hold monthly meetings with the groups that we're talking about it within the Mount Aerosmith Biosphere Reserve, just so we can do those sorts of things, so we can connect about what we're doing and support each other in what we're doing rather than recreate what we're doing. So yeah, we are definitely working on that, and I have enough meetings that I don't want to create meetings just for the sake of meetings. So I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Don't know if you're aware, I'm on the liaison for Mabry, and they're going to be doing presentations in the schools this next year. They're starting with, I believe, Qualicum Secondary School. So I don't know the name of it. I can't remember, but that's what they're doing. So, because Mabry's trying to have more of a presence in the region, you know, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, most of our schooling projects, well, most of them involve the elementary school, just for the curriculum connections that we have. And so that's where we're focusing our connections with the school system.
Thank you very much for your presentation there, Peter. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we look forward to watching further experiences and maybe some backtracking going on.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I applaud. Thank you for what you do. The next delegation council, oh, sorry. I've switched the page. Get the right page. The next delegation is Mr. Garbett regarding the development permit and development variance permit application at 157 or 150 McCarter Street regarding the permit application and summary. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And you've got a presentation.
Do I have
for you.
control now? Oh, I do. And this is on. Great. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Also, I noticed Blaine was logged in virtually. Him and Sarah with the city have been phenomenal to deal with. So kudos to Blaine and Sarah. And my partner Suki is logged in virtually. So I'm going to go a little out of order here and just introduce myself a little bit first. So my name's James Garbett. I'm a residential realtor. I'm a father of 3, soccer coach. I own a brewery called Steel and Oak out of New Westminster. I'm involved in a brewery out of Victoria called Herald Street Brewworks. And I have a passion for real estate development and hope to create some amazing housing. So I'm excited about, well, one, I feel lucky to own a piece of property by the beach, by the waterfront park in such a beautiful city. And I wouldn't blame you for, being very critical of anything that gets built in these lands. So I'm here to just let you know that there's a human behind this project. It's not a big company. My partner Suki runs an accounting firm, employs 18 people. We met at an entrepreneurs group. We have a photo here when we first bought the property, when we first closed on the property right here. That was on a retreat for our entrepreneurs group that we met in. But he manages and owns a portfolio of real estate as well. And both of us have an interest that this project right here is at a larger level than both of us have done before. And we're very excited for it. So to give you a little background on the project, we've taken over, we initially bought the property from a gentleman named Bruce McClay that's developed in this area before, and we ultimately took over his development permit. 43 residential units, a little over 2,000 square feet of ground floor commercial. It's a 4-story building with concealed parking on grade. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with it, so I'm just going to go over the highlight bullet points. It's for market rental primarily, 43 residential units, just over 2,000 square feet of commercial, mix of suites, 8 2-bedrooms, 35 1-bedrooms, accessibility, 10 suites in total. But we do have, in another report somewhere here, we are allowing for an additional, I wish I knew the number, but 20 or 30 suites that are adaptable ready. I've also been told by Bruce there's no chance that we're going to need this many accessible or adaptable suites, but we're planning for it. The history of the project, Bruce began this in 2014. He didn't carry it through. One of his buildings burnt down, and he is a much older man, so he decided to sell instead of proceed to help his family sleep at night, is my understanding of their reason. But for us, this is the first time we've gone from a development permit to a building permit with the use of with a multifamily development. When we bought the property, from the time we bought the property till today, or basically from the cutoff of the development permit, the world changed a lot against us in terms of the finance. When we bought here, let me just go back and give you a little. Oh, there we go. So this is a little out of order, but when we bought the property May 17, we did not make, my apologies here. There we go. I'm going to do this right here. My apologies. There we go. Okay. So when we bought where's the notes? Okay, here we go. Just when we bought the property, the interest rate skyrocketed. From the first 16 months we owned the property, the Canadian Bank prime rate went up 4.25%. There's talks about supply issues. There's rising costs of construction, all these matters that are not what first-time developers want to hear. And ultimately for us, it came down to the option that we really rely on CMHC financing to make this work. And the idea of private financing is just far too expensive or bank lending. So the CMHC financing comes with criteria that we were unfamiliar with. Environmental requirements, accessibility requirements, energy requirements, accessibility requirements, amongst a few other things, and then affordability requirements as well. So in the time that we closed on the property to when the development permit needed to be issued, we had just over a year to get it all done, and we didn't. We were close, but we missed the target. And it was a lot of learning from us. And what we regretfully didn't do, and Sarah advised us to do, when it looked 4 months out that we were going to miss our deadline, we should have resubmitted the application then, but we didn't. Instead, we missed the deadline, and now we're resubmitting the application. A little loud? Okay, I'll go back. I think it's because. So we missed the cutoff. Getting consultants together, getting building permit plans ready in the time we had, and also making plan changes to meet the CMHC requirements. Like I said, we were close, but we didn't make it. The highlights of the changes that we made from Bruce's original proposal, the main thing that stood out to me from Bruce's proposal in terms of a variance was the height variance. So that's just to make a feasible project a 4-story building. The changes that we made from his proposal was to increase the energy efficiency. So to commit to a step code 3 instead of no commitment, to commit 25% of the units to affordable housing. That's not a Parksville commitment. That's a commitment we're making for CMHC financing. We're not asking anything from Parksville with this application in hopes of streamlining the process. We increased the accessibility and also the adaptability of other units. And we, not from a CMHC requirement, but we added more, electric car charging parking in the parking. And we rearranged the main floor a little bit to make it add more bike storage and ultimately for electric cars. Those are the high-level highlights of the changes we made. Outside of that, it is nearly an identical concept. And the renderings that you see above are from Bruce's application years ago. Those are old renderings. I just took screenshots of them and brought them forward here. I'm not quite sure what is the most, what questions you may have. I know this project pretty thoroughly. I know our timeline with it pretty thoroughly, and I'm happy to answer them. I'm just excited to hopefully do this project in the city one day.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And I think you got it all condensed very well.
Okay.
You did a good job. So I'm familiar with this project, of course, when Bruce McClay anyways presented it to previous council, and we were pretty excited about it back at that time as well, mostly for the fact that it was bringing 2 and 3 bedroom units, into the downtown core, and encouraging family into it. And so that was one of the big pluses of it. It's a good looking project, and it's definitely needed in the area. We want to bring densification to the downtown core. So you're on the right track there, helping us achieve our goal to create more vibrancy in the downtown. I have one question I asked Mr. McLean at the time, and do you plan on removing the utility pole right at the corner, right on MacArthur and Middleton? There's a pole in the road. And Mr. McClay advised me, yes, it would be removed because it's the only utility pole we have that's in actually a street. It's not on the sidewalk, it's actually in the street. If you have a look at the property, anyways, I walk it regularly. It's a pole.
I see that photo right above you.
And it is always a lot of near accidents that happen around that pole. So Mr. McClay said, yes, it would be as part of the revamping of the entire property. So I think from a safety perspective, I think it would be in your best interest to do so, because you're going to increase the density there of people coming and going. And you saw from the last one of our other delegations today on how it could be hazardous, with a lot of traffic. So the pole, if there's one bugaboo on that whole street, that's mine, and I would like it removed. Thank you.
It's the first time I've heard of the
Okay,
poll,
you
so.
have a look at it.
But,
So, I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
it's a situation that's left over from I don't know what, probably when the barn was there and the horses were tied up. I don't know. But it's still there and it shouldn't be there. So it should be,
yeah, I know we're going to be doing some landscaping work there, and I'm sure this is a conversation we're going to be having with the city shortly on this. I just don't know what I don't know.
right.
And all I would say is we've been pretty accommodating to date with, little things that are, well, that we knew that were tied to this property. This had a lot of parking stalls in lieu. For example, we had to pay off to come here today and make this a little more, hopefully, seamless. We proactively paid off, oh geez, I don't know what it was, but the total bill is around $170,000 for 19 parking stalls, I believe. And we paid off a good portion of that, 120,000 or so, with more to come to help our application here today. So I'd say as long as that telephone pole isn't $1 million telephone pole, I don't know what the cost is. I don't know what I don't know, but I don't like it there either.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'd like to hope that we can get rid of it in this process, but I don't know what I can commit to and what I can't commit to.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking maybe your landscape architect could probably make it disappear with a really nice planting, but that probably wouldn't be a good idea. Yeah, thank you for that. I'll leave the floor open to others. Thank you. Councillor Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to our delegation. Thank you very much for the proposal, and you're selling yourself short because there were a number of things that I noticed that really caused me to sit up and take notice, and I really appreciate it. I will clarify, though, what I saw in the plan were 1 and 2 bedroom units. I did not notice that. However, I was pleased to see that there were not what I've heard called micro units, closets that are meant to be studios. So I appreciated that. It looked like they would be very livable places. However, you did not mention the heat pumps and everything, and I think that's huge. I think that we've seen the issues around heat domes and the like, and I certainly look forward to, I look for assurances that there will be the opportunity to keep a space cool enough should we ever have to live through something like that again. And so don't forget to mention that to other people too, because it's a really important bit. And to see the rough-in for electrical charges, again, easier to put in at that level, and then not too much expense to tweak those a bit later. I am a bit curious that you've removed any sort of scooter parking. So if people do have mobility issues or have devices, is there some way for them to, take care of them?
Well, I guess to touch on the heat pump, thank you for that note. Yeah, individual heat pumps for each unit will be on the roof. That's a recommendation from our energy guide, along with Bruce McClay as well. He's advising us through this project. He's been very helpful for me. A lot of the plan is going off his intuition. The way that ground floor was positioned, the way I looked at it without knowing the history of it or the requirements, was I saw a small bike room and a big common room that wasn't labeled to me as like a scooter space. It was told to me that it was going to be roughed in as a potential caretaker suite, or it just could be used as a common meeting space. And then I thought about, well, what about a gym? But it is a small room, and it wouldn't make a comfortable gym. So at the end of the day, I didn't think of it as mobile scooter. I thought of it as it was going to be a wasted interior, look pretty space. And I thought there would be more bikes, and the bike room that was previously on the plans was smaller than that space. So the thought was move the small bike room to the big room and just make the bike room, the old bike room, part of the commercial space, which by doing that, it did increase our parking stall requirements, which we do have additional fees to pay for that. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. And yes, I would like to say, nice to see the bike storage, absolutely. And also very nice to see that will be rental. Many of the development proposals that come forth, understandably, the builders are not prepared to actually state one way or the other whether it's going to be rental or whether it's going to be purchased, but nice to see that this will be in a great location. So thank you again for the presentation.
My partner Suki is iPhone guest up there. I mean, for us, really, the rental for us is we're building something we want to keep. to me, it's more than just, nails and wood. It's making something sensible and learning from this and doing it better the next time.
And thank you. And Councillor Grants.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too will say a happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone, since my first time on the microphone. Thank you for your presentation today. I noticed that you're a fellow Burnaby person, so my thoughts on this may be dependent on where in Burnaby you're from.
Yes. Yeah.
As a Burnaby South graduate.
No way. Okay. I was Middlegate before it was Highgate,
Okay.
but basically in your neck of the woods, not too far off.
Yes, the bowling
so-
alley there.
Yeah, that was my stomping grounds, riding a bike to the bowling alley in Middlegate. That was my childhood.
Very nice. Okay, I digress. I'm impressed with what I'm seeing. As Councillor Beal mentioned, there are lots of great elements to this project. So thank you for that. And adding some elements once you've taken over the project that meet our goals here as a council in terms of energy efficiency and electric car charging, those sorts of items. What I was curious about going through your checklist on the documentation here was around the water. Well, I'd love to see sort of some more done on water efficiency in your units. Low flow shower heads and toilets are something that we're encouraging in the city. We even have rebates for it. And so we'd like to see that on new projects wherever possible. And just sort of generally speaking, there are some other items on that checklist that I think would be great to maybe take a look at again without hopefully veering too far from the development permit going through.
I know I did have a conversation with my architect, and I don't know if there was another consultant in that meeting, but it was around the flow of, and there was, it's honestly, it was only touched on in one meeting that I had with them. And I know there is a plan for like water consumption is part of the approval. I just don't know the details about that. But in terms of you're referring to the shower, the fixtures and that restrict flow, absolutely. That's important to me,
Yeah.
and not just the flow being restricted, but also not having overflown sinks and all those little details. I don't want to have flooding in the building. I want to reduce any sort of room for error. But in terms of the specs of the exact, fixtures we're going to use, we're not quite there yet. And I don't know if, is that something that, like, to me, that's not, I don't know if that's in the building permit.
Yeah, so we have the sustainability community builder checklist. And so maybe it could be that this was the originally submitted one and that maybe you want to kind of go through it again. And we as a council, I don't want to speak for everybody, but we very much look at that as, okay, they're considering the things that we've got in the OCP, because these are informed by the OCP, but also priorities that this council is hoping to see more of. And so I was just drawing your attention to the water one in particular. There are a few others on here as well. But since I know that you also like beer, we want to make sure we have enough water for the beer. So
Yeah, there's a lot of beer and water, or sorry, a lot of water and beer. 7 liters for every liter of beer. That's how much water a brewery goes through. But on the note, in the form that you're referring to is do you see our application and it's poorly filled out or not mentioning the detail that you're looking for? Is it specific to our application? No.
yeah, sorry, I'm just looking to the mayor to make sure that. So the documentation we have in our agenda package, I'm not sure whether this came from the original application. It probably did. And I don't know if this is a question through to staff, whether, there's opportunity to bring this forward again now that they've taken over the project. But basically, this is the sort of thing we love to see when it comes across our desk. This council hasn't seen this before. The mayor has in the previous council, but this council wouldn't have seen this project yet.
Okay, yeah, and thank you for that, Councillor Grants. I was just going to comment. I believe Blaine is online. Yeah, no, I have a question for Blaine right now regarding what Joe's talking about.
There is.
Just a question for Mr. Russell at this particular point. We talked about low flow shower heads and low flow toilets and so forth. Is that not already a requirement in the building code? And that's the first part of the question, Mr. Russell. And is the reference to the heat pumps, is it referring to the fact that are most proponents aware of the fact that BC Building Code is having a change that I believe is proposed in 24 that is going to actually insist on heating and cooling abilities, which can be achieved by your heat pumps, but they're going to make it part of the building code, which is a big change that's coming in. I'm not sure if it's coming in play in 24 or 25, but I know BC Building Code has put the revisions out already, and that's one of the things I picked up on. So, Mr. Russell, if you could comment on both of those.
If I may, Mayor, to yourself and council, the BC Building Code as part of the plumbing code does specify the efficiencies of fixtures, and those requirements are changing and becoming more stringent over time. We always encourage people to go beyond what the code requirements are if possible and consider those in their application, hence the checklist. With respect to updates to the BC Building Code, some of those updates have been scaled back for the next code upgrade. At this point, the main upgrade is to deal with radon, with a lot of the other aspects being sort of kicked further ahead on the BC Building Code agenda.
Thank you for that. Yes, with the advent of trying to make less expensive builds, adding things like the air conditioning and so forth is not an option, but a must be, would definitely increase the cost of the builds, and we're trying to get the prices down to an affordable level here. So it just makes it more difficult with the amount of changes. So thank you for that, Mr. Russell. That addresses the plumbing fixtures that Councilor Grens has brought up. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. This is a very exciting project. And like Councillor Beal said, these questions have been brought up, but it was the idea of having rental. That is not what we usually find. They usually leave it down the road. And so this is going to be very good for our community. And I was very much into this water, safety, cut back on our water consumption, and this flush toilets to me seemed, I didn't know if it would cost the project a lot more money for that, but it seems to me would be a given in this day and age. So you can find out from your, this is all in the beginning stages, but thank you very much. It's excellent. Take care. Thank you.
Councilor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor, through yourself. Mr. Garbutt, thank you very much for your presentation. Can you tell us a little bit more about the CMHC non-market housing requirements that you are going to them for financing?
Yes. We are committing to 25% affordable housing, and that there's a formula for that. There's the commitment that we were going to do is, I believe, 11 to 15 years for 25% of the units. Now, we are not CMHC approved today. That was just what our approval was based on the previous application before we missed the deadline. So in theory, if anything changes in that room next time we have or we're ready to go, that could change. But I'm mentioning it aside from the financing that CMHC provides is phenomenal, but they do require affordable housing as part of it. And we just wanted to keep it simple by meeting their criteria, knowing that cities also have their own incentives for affordable as well. But for us, we're not opposed. We wanted to keep it simple. And all I can say is, I guess 25%, it probably is 11 units. It's 11 units for, I think the criteria is either 11 or 10 to 15 years. And I mean, that's all I know. Yeah.
Follow, Councilor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. That's excellent, 10 to 15 units. And is it based on, sorry, go ahead.
11 units for 10 to 15, or I think it's 11 units for 11 to 15 years.
11 to 15 years. And is that based on income, so 30% of their income, or how is it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's 3 different levels of affordability, and I wish I had it in front of me, but I believe what we were doing is the most affordable range. So I think it's and this is, I mean, I should have it to talk about it. The CMHC application comes with a point system, and a lot of our points are coming from the affordable aspect. And I believe there's, I really can't comment on that because there's 3 levels of affordability, and I know we didn't choose the middle one. So I'd have to look at our old application, but old application doesn't mean new application. I could pull it up in a minute, or is there a best follow-up means to get that information to you down the road?
You can send that information through to planning, and planning
Okay.
will refer that back to council.
Okay, because yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And we as council also have a huge goal of trying to bring as much affordable, I'd like to use the term non-market housing, to the area as well, because a lot of people who work in frontline jobs, they can't necessarily afford market housing. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. I like the proposal. It's an infill development right in our downtown. Lots of benefits being a rental. And for me to approve the variance for an additional story, I think Councillor Wood kind of hit the nail in the head that if there is a possibility of below market housing, which you mentioned 25%, so I could look into approving the variance on that pretense. Have you looked at underground parking for this proposal? Because what we have closest to this is 180 McCarter, which has a similar concept, and it has underground parking and up to 3 stories. So I was wondering if a similar build, if you could follow that.
Yeah, the answer is yes. I mean, openly, the first conversation I had with that was Bruce McClay, the previous homeowner. And to him, it wasn't financially feasible, but I wanted to get that outside validated to understand what that meant. I mean, we bought a property with an existing DP, and I took the word of an individual that's seasoned and, you know, in his 80s and done this many years as being true. But through going through this process and understanding the cost of construction and the costs of going underground and recognizing the equity requirements we have under the current plan to get qualified for CMHC, the money we have to come up with from our end to meet the existing plan is much higher than it was when we bought the property. So adding underground parking would really pressure us to have more stories, and it would be financially out of reach. So it's financial feasibility or not to, like, you know, a pension fund or a big business. I can't meet the equity requirement if we go underground. Yeah.
Thank you. Follow up, Councillor Gore.
Thank you. Since it's at a very busy, well, it will be busy street because we have the shopping complex there. So would the construction be in a manner that kind of respects the easy mobility of our community members using those services? How do you plan on kind of taking that into account when you're building?
Seeing the small project on Weld Street and the parking that's taken over, it is going to be a challenge. We will have a full-time site manager that will do our best to set the tone with trades out of the gates. I don't know where the pinch point's going to be, where there's the most people on site with the most vehicles there and things are going gangbusters. I imagine there will be some frustration. All we can do is, well, I guess we would take feedback from local business owners or the city on where overflow parking should be if it's not within a block of our site. I mean, right now we're offering the parking. The lot is free parking for downtown businesses. I happen to own properties on Weld Street as well, and the tenants that are there have the construction site across the street parking in front of their homes. So I understand the frustration, or at least the emotions, from someone that has to deal with it. The most important thing to me is not to hurt the local businesses. So, I mean, I'm a local business owner. I think anyone that is a local business is a warrior. I think they're going to choosing a hard life. And if we can proactively set the tone with the companies we hire and have a plan that is agreeable with the stakeholders, then we'll do our best to enforce it by having a guy full-time on site.
The reason I mention is because it's really impossible to take a left on McCarter to get on 19A. If you're trying to get on Highway 19A of McCarter to turn left,
Yeah,
it's nearly impossible unless like somebody puts the pedestrian crossing sign light on. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think you've answered a lot of questions for us, and I wish you well on your endeavor. We're pretty excited about this project, so looking forward to making things happen.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Council, moving on, we have two pieces of correspondence on the agenda today. The first piece of correspondence was from the Parksville and District Historical Society, the 2023 Parksville Museum Annual Report. We have a mover and seconder for the recommendation as noted. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. The next piece, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to mention something about the annual report. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I wanted to mention is that I was at the AGM and this is the annual report. You got it here. They are very well looked after. Their new board, they've got a couple of new members that are going to be very active. I'm very excited about it. So I think that we should all feel good about that. I just wanted to pass that on. This happened. So thank you.
you.
Sorry. It went very fast. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Just trying to stay warm. Talking quickly. The next piece of correspondence we have is from Mayor Doug O'Brien for the request for the exemption from the Short-Term Rental Accommodations Act. We have a mover in myself. I'll move this recommendation that the letter from Mayor Doug O'Brien to the Lieutenant Governor and Minister of Housing requesting partial exemption from the Short-Term Rental Accommodations Act be received for information. I'll move that. Got a seconder? That'd be seconded by Councillor Beal. Any discussion? Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to council, I would just like to thank you for the letter, and I'd like to thank the staff for the work done on this. I think that it's fair to say that this council is very much in keeping with the previous conversation. This council is very much motivated to see more rental housing available in our community. However, there is a certain part of our community that is not intended for rental housing. It is intended for one of our major revenue generators in this community, which is tourism. And I applaud the mayor and staff for this letter that will hopefully get some positive reaction from the province, because we do have areas of our community that are designated for this specific purpose. And I hope they'll hear the call to ensure that we can maintain this in our community for the benefit of the entire community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Granson, for pointing that out, and also my appreciation for the staff to give us all the statistics anyways to actually back our request for exemption on this. The request for exemption is for purpose-built vacation homes or rentals that are in the area, and we've identified it to the minister and so forth. We're certainly not against the main proponents of the STR Accommodations Act, but in this particular case, showing some incredible forethought. Probably 15 years ago, the council of the day increased the amount of tourist accommodation at the request of our tourism association and so forth, because we were short. Tourist accommodation, tourist economy is a very big economic driver in our community, very important to us and our community at large. So we feel it's best to go to bat for those individuals, for the previous council for having the forethought to increase those, to encourage those purpose-built facilities being occurring in Parksville, and they are very well used. So it's important for us to try and pressure or advocate on behalf of our community to the provincial government, and I hope for a favorable response. Thank you. Any further comments? Great. Hearing none. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Is it possible? I'm just looking at the agenda here. Yes, we'll take a 5-minute comfort break at this time. It's 2:14. We'll reconvene at 2:20. Thank you. Thank you, council. Welcome back. It's 2:20. We'll start off with the report on the agenda from the Director of Community Planning and Building, follow-up report, development variance permit application at 560 Sorio Road. Do we actually have a live report? It's just a report attached. Thank you. Is there anyone in the gallery who wishes to provide comment to council on the proposed development variance permit application? Nobody online? Thank you, CAO. Is there any written correspondence?
Yes, if I may, through the mayor, there were 2 items of correspondence that were sent directly to council. So you have received those. We have not received anything additional since that.
Yes, I remember seeing those in our background package. Thank you for that. 1 second, I'll get it on the floor first, Councilor Martin, then we'll go. Do I have a mover and a second for the recommendation as per the attached? Moved by Councilor Grenz, seconded by Councilor Martin. That's fine. Comments? Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was very pleased to see the consideration of where the windows are in this project and how it's set up, because these things, I know people who have carriage houses next door and that, and they complain about losing their privacy. And this has been taken into consideration in this project. So that was important to me.
Good.
And obviously, you know, there's other things too, I'm sure, but that was what I was thinking. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. The next is also from the Director of Community Planning and Building, the development variance permit application and development permit application at 150 McCarter Street. To consider proceeding with notice for a development variance permit and to consider the development permit. Do I have a mover second for the recommendation? Moved by Councilor Wood, seconded by Councilor Beal. Any questions or comments? Councilor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. So I was really pleased to have the applicant present before the council, answer our questions. I was hesitant initially to approve the variance. I can see the impact of this on the other properties. Most of the properties being 3 stories and another that's towering over neighbors and just darkening the alleyways and the road. So that was a bit of a concern for me. I'm quite pleased with the possibility of having 25% below market rentals. And that changes my vote on this, to be honest, because that is very much needed. Even though it would have been nicer to see some 3 bedrooms, but I understand the constraints of the space, the lot size and everything. So on that note, I would support this variance, hoping to have at least 11 of those units below market. This is much needed in our community. I understand that with the current C3 zone, can have up to 3 stories. So this additional story will make it more feasible for the applicant to build these units and have these come online. Yes, so I will support the variance, having the possibility of 25% of the units below market. Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any further comments? If I can refer to the
So if they exceed that, they do require the variance.
Glad to see that the proponent is taking those under consideration and is interested in seeing that.
which I appreciate. Councilor Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. Just make a quick question, a quick comment on maybe Bill 44 that could be changing what we can do for setbacks. And so we might right now have the luxury of thinking that we have those choices, and those choices may quickly go away. And so we might not want to get too hung up on those setbacks if that legislation is going to tell us what to do in the future. Thank you.
I hear exactly what you're saying and be grateful for what we have today. Thank you. Thank you. So all those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Next on our reports is the lease agreement renewal with the Parksville and District Historical Society. For the lease renewal with Parksville District Historical Society and Parksville Museum. We have an amazing report from their annual report that was received, showing this very valuable asset in our community, which I'm most appreciative for. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation as noted? It'd be moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Gore. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Under bylaws, we have the final adoption for the 5-year final financial plan amendment bylaw 2023-2027, number 1584.1. Do I have a mover seconder for the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any errors, omissions, or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you. Bylaws for final adoption today. We have Zoning and Development Amendment Bylaw 2023, number 2000.144 for the max and text amendment to tourist commercial CS2 at 1170 Resort Drive. Mover seconder for the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Beal. Any comments? Councillor Gore.
Thank you, Mayor. So I know this is final adoption of this rezoning. I understand A1 is not the intended zone for this. I also appreciate the applicant changing the community amenities contribution for this application. I do want to see something when this application comes forward for the DP. I have mentioned this before about the tree buffer on 19A. I know I was told that this is just an OCP recommendation, but I kind of dug into like in the policies and stuff. So within our OCP, like 5.1 land use policies, it talks about developments along 19A shall meet the intent of the appropriate DPA guidelines. And the DPA 7 that applies to these resort lands that we just passed the letter that from you talks about the unique features of these resort areas for tourists. So within the DPA 7, it specifically asks about the 20-meter tree buffer. And even within the resort lands policy specifically, 5.2.14, it says that tree retention and replanting strongly encouraged in the areas within 30 meters of 19A. So when this proposal comes forward, I really look forward to that character, that tree buffer along 19A protected. I really want to see a proposal for the DP where the character of this whole area, like the other resorts, a lot of mature trees being protected. This is what I look forward to seeing in this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment? All those in favor? That passes unanimous. Thank you. Any notices of motion? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We all received this code that's being looked at by the province, Mass Timber Codes in BC. So I'll just mention this, that I'm going to be bringing it forward in a motion in January. The BC government, in fact, I've got to put my glasses on. Jeez, sorry about this. The BC government is moving to change the code using timber to allow buildings as high as 18 stories. I move to not use timber for tall buildings above 12 stories. Now it's at 12 stories. So the reason why is it's just from my own perspective. We know trees are important for our ecosystem, however, are necessary for many of the products we use every day, such as paper products and houses, plus much more. So there's also a safety factor, as I believe if there was a fire in a tall wooden building, it would be destroyed much faster than if the building was concrete. This is my uneducated opinion. I've seen a building, a tall building of wood that went down. So my thought was trees are a renewable resource. However, how many years does it take to produce a tree for commercial value? In my opinion, this is foolhardy and a slippery slope that can affect the future of our children and grandchildren, and ask the council to support this. So I'm just there's something for you to think about, and in January, I'll bring it forward as a proper motion. So it'll go to the province. So, thank you.
If I could seek clarification here, Councillor Martin.
Yeah.
What is your motion?
I haven't got the whole motion will come. The motion is the BC government is moving to change the code using timber to allow buildings as high as 18 stories. I move to not use timber for tall buildings above 12 stories. Now, right now, the code is there for 12 stories.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I understand the intent, but I really believe that this is clearly out of our lane. When it comes to building code and all the other restrictions or the allowances and so forth, that is clearly a provincial jurisdiction on it. Create the provincial code.
Yeah.
You have the right to speak to that, to the province as an individual. But as a city of Parksville, putting it forward and so forth, I believe it's out of line. I believe that as an individual, you have the right to speak to the province of the building code assessments. If I'm not correct, maybe I'll go to Director of Planning, Mr. Russell. Would it not be appropriate, or our CAO, either one to? I don't believe that this is the right venue. I understand you're trying to adjust, as you say, from a non-educated position to that, suggesting that 14 stories as compared to 18 stories due to fire code regulations. But I just don't think that this is the venue to do it at. CAO Kaler, just comment.
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor to council, there's currently an open consultation process on this at the province. The Ministry of Housing specifically is seeking input. I believe it's kind of more from individuals. They're not necessarily seeking input from local government. They would normally do that through a different channel, I think. And I suppose the likelihood of us having more than 12 stories is right now fairly slim, although that could change. So I did discuss this with Councillor Martin, that there is an opportunity for individual members to participate in that process. And I believe it's open until January. But if this council wanted to send something forward, obviously staff would take direction from council on that. But if council doesn't move forward with that, then the opportunity is still there for individuals to participate.
Yes, and I'm just saying, once again, putting a motion out that's not doable. Unless I read this council different, I don't believe any of us here have the education or the experience to comment on what should be put in the code or not, other than from an individual point of view. But from a council perspective, I couldn't support anything like that to bring it forward. I think it'd be more purposeful if you were to participate in the at the participation level as the CAO is described anyways, instead of from the city of Parksville.
Well, thank you. I just was going to put it out there. I just thought, I read it and the red flag went up right away.
Yeah.
So I will definitely follow through. If anyone else would like to, you got the bulletin too. We all got it. And they're going to do this at SkyTrain stations and that sort of thing. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I know it doesn't affect us here yet, but what next will happen? So, and you see about the wood we're using and the way we need it. So we don't, it's you know. So anyway, that's fine. I'll follow through. There's no problem. I just don't want to waste our time. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other notices of motion? Do we have any liaison reports today? I know it's been moving into the holiday season here. The meetings are down. There are no liaison reports. We'll move forward. Under special business, do I have a mover and seconder for the recommendation that pursuant to section 91C, D, and E and I of the community charter, council proceed to a closed meeting to consider items related to labor, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, security of the property of the municipality, and the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege. Moved by Councillor Wood, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So let's just move along. Good afternoon.